Hey, morning, friends. Bill here. I want to chat for a second about the SFOI Legal Defense Fund. The SFOI Legal Defense Fund. So the Legal Defense Fund was established in essence to perpetuate and keep the gospel being preached in the public forum where we operate. That's the idea. That's the big idea, is to protect our legal rights to continue to preach Christ and minister people out in the public forum where we minister. There's three problems we typically have when we're in this, when we are in these environments. Now, as one aside, a public forum, according to free speech law, like free speech law in the United States, allows you to say what you want to say in the public forum with your voice and passing out literature. The public forum in our day and where we work is typically a sidewalk around an arena or a stadium or around a public park. There are other places where free speech, you have to deal with it, schools and work and so forth. But for us, it's this public forum where the law allows anybody to come out and say anything you want to, basically, and make your case about a topic. And so that's what I'm talking about, the public forum, free speech, and which, like I said, boil down to areas, sidewalks and areas around stadiums, arenas, public parks, and so forth. So there's three problems that we typically run into where people try to thwart our liberty in the public forum. They try to thwart the gospel being preached. And those three are: one, someone in authority. It could be a police officer, a civil magistrate of some sort, someone who owns the stadium where we're at, management from that stadium, someone from the area coming in, and with perceiving they have authority over us, they want to tell us to leave. The problem is they don't know free speech law. So what I'm saying about this first point is they kind of innocently walk up, not knowing free speech law, and tell us we got to go. The second thing is people in this camp come up and they just want us to go. They don't care if they know free speech law or not. They just want us to go. And the third thing is where a vendor or a third party tells someone in authority, hey, we want these guys to go. And then people come up and try to intimidate us, try to get us to leave. Of all three, they're always trying to get us to stop preaching and go away. See, that's the main thing we're doing here. The Legal Defense Fund is keep the gospel being preached so sinners can hear the good news of Jesus, forgiveness of sins in Jesus Christ, faith in Him. And so that's the scenario that we're in. Now, the United States Supreme Court wholeheartedly supports free speech. There's a group called Westboro Baptist. Remember them? They're pretty aggressive for a long time. They even, I think, were protesting at the funerals of soldiers. And somewhere along the way in their world, their case went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that the Westboro Baptists can continue what they were doing. I don't know exactly all the details, but I know the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. And so Supreme Court has been a highly prized liberty for citizens. And as far as I can see, basically, apart from something like hate speech, which means you're going out to start a fight, basically free speech has continued to be protected. So I know that. I've been preaching full-time 25 years, 5 years before that. My experience, I've seen it, I understand it. And so we as an entity, as SFOI.org, when we're out there operating, and most guys we know understand that free speech law is for us, and we understand where the public forum is, and we get in those places and preach. We're not trying to get in a place where we don't believe it's right to be in, per se, or we're not trying to challenge the law. The law clearly is on our side. And this is what the Legal Defense Fund is. We've got some attorneys in Chattanooga who are helping us now. Let me first say how we got here. I think this is a good story, a good part of the story here. 2010, the Super Bowl, I believe it's 2010, 2011, I think. The Super Bowl was in Dallas, Texas. And long story short, we had about 100 guys coming in. Just long story short, the way these things sort of unfold for me in these environments, I can't remember every detail, but there was a free speech law firm. There's several in the country. In this case, in Dallas, it was called First Liberty. There's also ADF out of Arizona. There's some other smaller ones, regional ones around the country, but First Liberty was there. And I called and talked to Jeff Mateer, great guy, and we met Jeff there. And what began was about a 9-year run where First Liberty would represent us basically around the Super Bowl. And what they did was they prepared a letter for us, what I call a pre-event letter. So they did preparatory work where they would go in and research the rules, the regs, the ordinances, the applications, all that kind of stuff, street closures, everything around the event, and then come back and give us a letter explaining where we could preach and where it was legal and whatnot. In that process, they would also end up with the name of the police officer who was in charge of the event. One thing I found out in these events over the years, which I didn't know at the beginning, was there's a lot of extra security, and lots of times the cities will change some of the rules and regs and close streets and so forth. And so I just realized, hey, I don't know all these things. I might be able to look it up myself a little bit, but I'm going to miss something. I need a lawyer to come in and do this official research for us. And that's what was happening with First Liberty. So I would end up with this letter that we could carry with us and show anyone that came up to us to try to run us off. See, back to one of those 3 examples from the beginning, I could show them the letter and say, hey, we have legal standing to be here, signed by a legal firm. And that typically took care of business. You know, having a lawyer represent you, having a legal document is very helpful. I guess in general, I learned the hard way that just being a citizen and, hey, these are my rights, that's got some measure of standing out on the street. But basically, if you have a lawyer get involved, people sort of stand up and salute. They pay a lot more attention. So having the letter from First Liberty was very, very helpful. And so I saw that. And we did it only really around the Super Bowl, maybe 1 or 2 other events where we had a little trouble, like the Derby. We had about 20, 30 people coming. But from the end of 2019, they helped us and it worked great. They decided that they wanted to not do that anymore. You know, in the legal business, I think doing preparatory work is not what they typically do. They typically are trying to deal with situations that have occurred, either when somebody goes to court, gets arrested or something like that. And so they had a lot of business. They're really busy. They're still doing a great job. If you check them out online, firstliberty.org. Anyway, so I finessed it for a couple of years around the Super Bowl, found some individual lawyers that did this work. And then what happened was I called Jeff back, I think about 2021, I think it was 22. And I said, hey, I want to find somebody in the Chattanooga area who can help us. Can you help me find somebody? So he referred me to a guy named John Scometti. Mr. Scometti at the time was working for the Tennessee Attorney General. He is now the Attorney General of Tennessee. And so Mr. Scometti referred me to Nate Kennard in Chattanooga. So Nate began to help us, and he helped us on these events, did a great job. And then now he has actually moved on to work for one of the Tennessee United States Senators, and Peter Newman has taken over for Nate. And what's happening now is that 2 things. Peter's doing these pre-event letters basically for all the events we do, which are added up to about 20 or 25 events a year. And he's also helping if an individual evangelist has a problem with security, like one of the 3 examples I mentioned at the beginning of the video, then if they let me know, I'll forward that to Peter, and Peter, like Nate before him, will follow up on that case as well. Again, our mission is through this legal process, Legal Defense Fund, is to keep the gospel being preached. If we have a legitimate situation where that is being impeded, then we're happy to step in there and help the evangelist or an event we're putting on. And it's been going well. It worked well. We've had some significant wins in Green Bay with one evangelist that we know, and then also just through this pre-event process and other situations, the whole thing is working well. Working well means the gospel is still getting preached, and that's the key thing. So I'm inviting you today to give to this effort so we can continue on with this effort, the pre-event letter, helping other evangelists as they go, as people resist them a little bit, and so the gospel can continue to be preached in the United States. It's that simple. I need your help. I'm asking for it. I think it's a very successful effort that's going on here, praise God, and we want to continue it, probably expand it a little bit, because as SFOI, more evangelists work with us, we get to know more people, it's naturally going to expand. I don't think I've said this yet, but Canada also is a situation there's not really all the free speech workers up there in Canada, so we need to do something up there as well. Now, Peter's not licensed in Canada, but there's an attorney that's up there as well. So in other words, this process for SFOI will continue, and I'll continue to ask you to help us partner with us in this work so the gospel can be preached in the United States and Canada as well. One more point about the process to show you how it also works evangelistically. I'll give you a specific example. So when, in this case, Peter is now contacting the city, so contact the mayor's office and the police department and so forth, he tells them, hey, I'm representing some Christian evangelists, and they're coming to do this work at your event. So that's like preaching Christ to the people, and all of a sudden, all the spiritual dynamics begin to set in place with these people that Peter talks to. Some are Christians, some are not. And so all of that happens, that language happens between them. And so we find officers that are helpful to us, that are Christians and want to help us. They're not breaking the law or anything. They're following the law, but oftentimes, they give us the full benefit of the law allows. That's really helpful. And they're glad that we're there and so forth. We've seen that a lot over the years. Genuine Christian officers, hey man, keep it up guys, I'm here for you, stuff like that. So that process has a ministerial component as well. You never know what the Lord's doing in the lives of these people that Peter's contacting. And so I think that's valuable. I definitely think that's valuable. Let me tell you one example, and then we'll wrap it up here, how this really worked to our benefit. So we were going to Cleveland, Ohio for the NFL draft several years ago, and Nate was working with us then. He called the city attorney, and apparently their ordinance for this situation was pretty vague. Now, before that, I would have thought, hey, you get these city council members together, they're probably pretty good at coming up with clear, specific language on ordinances in general, in our case as well. But apparently that's not the case. And, if you think about it, when senators get together and they start trying to come up with specific language, that's probably pretty challenging at the end of the day. So anyway, so the language was vague, and Nate began to explain to the city attorney how to really interpret whatever they had, and he convinced the city attorney that our position was the legal position. The other thing that happened was that Nate talked to the police chief, and the police chief and I ultimately got on the phone. And the police chief, here's the beauty of it, he said, hey, here's the two places for you guys to stand to reach the most people. And he told us where to stand, and we stood there, and they were the absolute best place we could stand in the stadium. So you never know how this legal work can really benefit us, not only legally, but in other matters as well. So like we got a clear code in Cleveland, Ohio. There's a handful of evangelists up there as well. And the police chief told us where to stand. So the whole process, while it might sound like it's a very legal, black and white situation, and there is that element, there's also the ministerial component as well that actually can and often does benefit us on the ground. Ultimately, the whole process keeps the gospel being preached at these events, the events that we're organizing, and helps individual evangelists keep preaching as well. So in that sense, to me, it's a very worthwhile effort, and your giving towards this end is very, very helpful so that Christ can continue to be preached. Hey, listen, I'd love to chat with you. Give me a call if you want to talk more about it. 423-724-7500, 423-724-7500. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to hear from you. Bye-bye.